Today's the day, the SpaceX IPO, and I think it is safe to say excitement is guaranteed. Biggest IPO in history, biggest capital raise in history, unprecedented demand, interest, hype. It's going to be quite something. So let's do a quick roundup, some of the discussion happening just prior to the biggest IPO in history.
Okay, and for AI, one needs data centers. We need, therefore, maybe data centers in space. This is the entire pitch that we now go through. Your workings, your numbers, your thesis on orbital data centers, Brett.
Yeah, well, what's interesting about the SpaceX IPO is you actually don't need the AI business to really work that well in order to actually get a great return on kind of just the Starlink business. So, Elon and co, they are saying they're going to be able to launch tens of gigawatts per year by the late 2020s. So an easy way to think of a gigawatt, you can rent it out at the current market rate over the long term. It's something like $15 billion per gigawatt. So imagine launching tens of gigawatts times $15 billion, so $300 billion in incremental revenue in any individual year that you're doing that. The reality of their AI business today is on a blended average basis, they have just rented capacity to Google and Anthropic for just a little under $40 billion per gigawatt. So actually serving it as an infrastructure, as a service provider could be a wildly lucrative business for them because they can build assets on the ground so efficiently, and once they launch into space, they can build it efficiently.
You know, Brett, like you are as a firm regarded as some of the most bullish on Elon Musk, like the individual and the plan that they outlined in the prospectus. But there, of course, are risks. Right? You know, Musk posted on X last night this idea that 1 million tons to orbit will be possible in roughly 5 years. Starship on paper can do 150 metric tons on paper, right? You do the math. That's 1,333 launches a year, every year for 5 years to do that. You know, you would concede, right, that it's a long shot.
Well, he always lays out super ambitious targets for his companies because that's the way he's found to make his workforce most effective at actually delivering world-changing technologies. Think about it this way. Just look at the Starlink business and imagine look at SpaceX, imagine instead of launching Falcon 9 rockets, I'm launching Starship rockets at the same cadence filled with Starlink satellites. That alone would get me in 2 years of launching to roughly a little under $200 billion in revenue. So,
yep, there it is. Now, just to be really clear, all Brett has said is if SpaceX can be launching Starship as regularly as they're currently launching Falcon 9 and deploying Starlink satellites, so that estimate, $200 billion in revenue, wasn't if SpaceX can be launching Starships 5 times as often as Falcon 9s, 10 times as often, 50 times as often, 100, if they literally are launching at the exact same cadence, because Starship has meaningfully more capacity, it can launch the next-gen Starlink satellites and more of them. You can turn on $200 billion of additional Starlink revenue over a reasonable time frame.
Interesting.
You don't have to make an assumption that the company is going to be launching, at even 1,000 launches a year in order to get into the kind of mostly on Starlink, $300 to $400 billion in revenue by 2030.
So, did I hear correctly? $300 to $400 billion of Starlink revenue by 2030. And just to be clear, this is just Starlink. He's not at all talking about AI. This is Starlink home broadband and cell service.
So there's this discourse out there that, hey, this company on a price to sales basis on the immediate term looks very expensive and poor retail is investing in this thing because they don't understand. The whole point of capital markets is you raise capital and then you deploy it in high return on invested capital businesses. And Starlink alone it's a 6-month cash-on-cash return for 5-year linked satellites. They're going to spend $500 million building or launching a rocket filled with satellites and acquiring the customers, and it should generate them $1 billion plus per year over the 5-year life of the satellite. So that's a great business.
So, Brett,
great business is what we would describe in technical terms as a massive fucking understatement.
You can build an amazing business just basically renting compute to others and running Starlink, but there's clearly both an ambition and then a higher margin in actually kind of like competing with Anthropic and OpenAI. In our view, that probably doesn't happen until SpaceX is launching,
Brett,
multiple gigawatts into orbit.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. There is a disconnect, and that many people share this thesis, right? The TAM number in the prospectus, 26.5 trillion, was for enterprise AI, and I appreciate there's sub-buckets. In the here and now, they've basically played a blinder with a ready-to-go neo-cloud business. And lots of people keep telling me, like, in the end, it doesn't matter if Grok works or is competitive against Anthropic and OpenAI. They just rent out the capacity, and that will fund the out of this world ambition. What would you respond to that?
I think that's possible. As in the way in which we model the business, that is the more likely outcome. I think to compete, to get to the frontier by 2030, you'll need between 30 and 50 gigawatt years of compute and training. Because XAI started later and they're trying to build their own infrastructure, it's very difficult for them to catch up on that amount of kind of R&D compute thrown at their model. With the caveat that assuming that they merge with Tesla over the next couple of years, cash flow from Tesla could actually fund catch-up for them.
You assume that?
I think it's a reasonable assumption, or more likely than not, after the company lists and its shares are all floating, that there is a merger between the entities. It makes a ton of strategic sense. And as we model Tesla, like the cash flow flowing off Robotaxi, they can't effectively deploy it. So, I'm not going to want a special dividend out to shareholders for Tesla. I want them to continue to reinvest in growth. Optimus, the robot business, requires, it's not capital constrained, it's really like capability constrained. And so, whereas SpaceX actually can use additional capital to continue to accelerate growth.
So it's officially mid-June 2026, and I still haven't heard a single person who doesn't think it's inevitable that SpaceX and Tesla eventually merge. Interesting observation there from Brett. Essentially that Tesla will be spitting off so much cash from robotaxis that Tesla won't be able to spend all the money, but SpaceX will. Let's get to the next clip.
A surprise on the pricing. I think what a lot of people want to know is just how oversubscribed this darn thing is.
Yeah, massively oversubscribed, and the math is static, right? $135 a share, 555.6 million shares, they'll raise $75 billion. What I'm told is that this was Elon Musk and Brett Johnson, the CFO, setting terms, and while the bankers will make a lot of money, they had very little to do with setting the price. It got set pre-roadshow, and it stayed that way.
By the way, the reason for this is speculation alert. Is because SpaceX did not wish to fuck retail investors. It didn't take a rocket scientist, I get it, to realize that there'd be a massive excess of interest from investors. Meaning, if SpaceX wanted to, they could have priced the IPO significantly higher and massively cashed in. But offering the company at a fixed and reasonable valuation instead of seeking interest, soliciting feedback, and pricing it as high as possible was a way, in my opinion, for them to give retail investors an opportunity to get an allocation of shares at a very reasonable price as opposed to squeezing every last drop. This was a very positive sign that SpaceX was looking out for retail investors. And based on the latest rumors, there is now more demand, as in shares requested, from retail investors alone, e.g. you and I, not even including big institutional investors, just regular people who requested an allocation. In terms of total dollar amount, there's more demand than the entire $75 billion IPO float. Meaning, SpaceX could have, in theory, of course, this wouldn't actually have played out in reality, but they could have offered 100% of the IPO shares exclusively to retail investors, and they'd all have been gobbled up. Unbelievable interest from retail here. This is a truly incredible amount of demand and interest from retail investors alone.
Now, you're exactly right. It's not just oversubscription on the institutional side. We'll work out in the wash what the allocations were. But on the retail side, massive oversubscription up to 100 billion. And so like what I'm hearing, the expectation is you will see a crazy open when this starts trading on Friday, but there's every possible and conceivable chance that in the open market, people buy and then they sell at a high and you start to see some very different action in the afternoon.
Right.
So what it's getting at here, it's all hypothetical, of course, is if there is a significant imbalance between supply and demand, which it clearly is, odds are, and this is not a guarantee or a prediction, but odds are, mechanically speaking, this could cause SpaceX stock to have a very, very interesting open, which could, in theory, again, this is all hypothetical, cause many investors who happen to get an allocation at the 135 price to hypothetically be sitting on a meaningful, extremely short-term gain. Some of these folks then may decide to sell and lock in this profit, which, depending on how the total demand, buying and selling activity all shakes out, could provide for a rather entertaining IPO day for SpaceX stock. I would also just like to add that rather than trying to guess what the stock price may or may not do, I would strongly recommend using your brain cycles to do your best to estimate the long-term valuation of SpaceX, the company, to assist in your decision-making process. In conclusion, grab your popcorn, folks. The SpaceX IPO only happens once. And on that note, if anyone feels compelled to send me a DM or spam my DMs on X during the IPO, I promise I won't judge you. I do mean that, by the way. This day will never happen again. And just finally, if you're not a regular viewer of the channel, highly recommend checking out the last few videos I've posted. I've shared my thoughts, my plan for the SpaceX IPO, how I'm deploying my capital, and also some analysis from Grok on Grok's best estimates, a base case, bull case, and a bear case for what may or may not happen in and around the SpaceX IPO. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 has been part of my daily health protocol for almost half a decade. It's packed full of vitamins and minerals and helps me fill in nutritional gaps while supporting energy, digestion, and immune function. It also has prebiotics and probiotics to promote gut health. I take my health very seriously, and so should you. Try AG1 today by visiting drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment and enjoy a free welcome kit with vitamin D3 plus K2 and AG1 travel packs. That's drinkag1.com/SMR.